TGI Friday, pen friends. This is Tom with Gold Spot Pens. It's been a while since we did one of these, but we have a very nice pen for you today to unbox. And I feel like my color temperatures are just slightly off right now, but bear with it. Maybe it'll just kind of like correct itself. Hold on. Okay, yeah, maybe it'll just correct itself, or maybe I have to turn off a light or something. Let's see. Maybe that'll help. No, not. All right, so this is, if you haven't guessed it already, the Platinum Curidas. This is a new pen that is slated for release in March, mid-March of this year. And this is actually not the box that it will come in. Big bummer, right? This is the box that apparently it shall come in. So I wrote that little note there. And it's a, your basic two-part clamshell box with a sleeve on it. I thought this was pretty cool. This was what the distributor had sent us as the one lone sample that we had for photography. I thought I'd share it with you too because I thought this thing was pretty cool. It is a little cumbersome in terms of its size, so really not impractical in concerning it with shipping and whatnot, but pretty neat because, hey, it works exactly like how the pen works. You push this part in, the plunger, and out, oh, look, there comes the nib. It's kind of fun, but it kind of gets a little snagged, so I'm just trying to, there we go. So you pull this apart, and there's the Platinum Curidas with its instruction manual, and it's got all this information in here. You got your little diagram. It is a pretty complex pen, especially if you come from knowing the Vanishing Point. It's a little bit more complex than the Vanishing Point. It allows you to perform your own clipectomy to remove the clip on the pen and then install it back if you like. Unfortunately, our sample piece did not come with the clip remover. I'm guessing that's where it was supposed to be. This is where the cartridge, I suppose, would go. But we'll do that in a future video, I guess. So that's the instruction booklet that's there. This is the pen, the Platinum Curidas. Very, very cool looking design. It's translucent. This is the smoke finish, so there is a more transparent material. Like there's a clear version, there's a blue, a red, a green, and this is the smoke with the silver clip. Kind of see a lot of the internals from just looking on the outside of the pen. You can see the little trap door, like, hello, I am the Platinum Curidas. It's a trap, or it's a crab, as Mr. Brown had said recently in one of his videos about the Narwhal pen. So enough looking at it. We'll talk a little bit more about the size, which I'll put in the description notes below, so you'll see like the various lengths and girth and whatnot. And I actually did bring out for this unboxing a Pilot Vanishing Point. There you go, the basis for comparison of this pen. So we'll have a direct comparison to kind of take a look at the size and the shape of the Curidas versus the Vanishing Point. So you'll see this is what they look like without the nibs protracted, and this is what they would look like with the nibs out. Very similar in length, but the thickness really, and especially towards the nib, is where you would see a lot of the difference. You see the nib on the Curidas comes out a lot more than the hooded nib of the Vanishing Point, and the front part from where the nib comes out is a lot thicker than with the Vanishing Point's tapered area. And you can notice too that the clip on the Vanishing Point is a lot farther forward than with the Curidas. One of the big things I noticed about this pen, the Curidas that is that the little trap door mechanism, the part that actually holds this out, which is currently in its out position, it comes out almost like a roll stop. So this is kind of, for me at least, which we'll get to the writing sample, is actually something I didn't think I was going to get bothered with, but it bothers me. It bothers me more than the Vanishing Point clip. And I think that they went through some great lengths in designing the Curidas so that you could remove the clip and that it wouldn't get in the way and it wouldn't impede your writing grip. But however, they still left this guy on here, this little goatee of the Curidas. So, it's something that we're going to have to talk about more in the writing area, but I just want to really show you the main differences between the Curidas and the Pilot Vanishing Point. And of course, one of the bigger things to note about the differences between these two is the fact that the Vanishing Point has an 18-karat gold nib, the Curidas has a stainless steel nib. And we'll get more to that writing sample, of course, but just to give you a little bit more of a background on the Curidas, we'll kind of take it apart and kind of show you what's going on here. So you have the back end part with the knock or the plunger mechanism, and that's kind of got like a ratcheted sort of cutout on there that holds the clicking in place and whatnot. It makes that satisfying sound. Then you have the internal mechanism here to hold the nib and also whatever you're using to fill it. I have the cartridge installed right now. And in order to exchange either the cartridge or put a converter in, you're going to have to pay attention to this little notch that's here. You push it in, then you turn it, then you come out this side here, and you have the nib unit. So very similar to how you would see with the Vanishing Point, the nib unit kind of comes out all in one piece with whatever you're filling it with. Then you would also do the same thing as you did to release it from the rest of the pen. You would release the nib by going like this, and then you'd be able to access the cartridge or the converter and be able to fill the pen. So it's a little bit more complicated. And also too is that this guy right here, this long coiled spring, which is quite a light spring, is, I mean, it's the same thing we see with ballpoint pens all the time, is that you can't assume that people are going to be able to easily maintain and keep this spring from just deciding to bounce off and again, to get lost somewhere. And the whole entire pen relies on this spring to operate. So it's a very lightly coiled spring. It's not a very strong, nor is it tethered to anything, so it just could come right out if you want to. And I really would hope that in a future edition that they kind of, are able to make that spring a little bit more hardy. Because I noticed that too, is that if you don't put it in correctly, or if you put it in and slightly kink it, or God forbid it falls on the floor and then you step on it, then the tension is not going to be as tough to be able to fully retract the pen. See, right now I got a good snapback, but it kind of hesitates a little bit because that's see, and it just kind of like hangs up there. There we go. Then it pushed back because that spring has to have enough tensile strength to push back everything when you want to let go of the mechanism and retract the nib. So it's not perfect, but then again, we're talking about, if we're comparing it against the Vanishing Point, which is of course almost three times more expensive than the Curidas, you're talking about a different pedigree of pen. So when you look at the Vanishing Point, this is all very one solid piece, and you can't even access the screw, I'm sorry, the spring that's inside here if you wanted to. I have a pair of alligator forceps and tried grabbing that spring out of there, and you really can't do it. But you can still feel the spring is there, but it does not, it doesn't come out. So that's where I would kind of say, like, I wish that the Curidas, that the spring wasn't so obviously able to come out, that if it was like buried more towards the internal part here and that you wouldn't be able to access it or have it accidentally fall out, that might help it be a little bit more hardy and a little bit more long-term of a pen. But as far as the click action is concerned, it is very satisfying. But like, as you can see here, it's kind of still having a little bit of it's having a little snag trying to come back up into the pen after I let go of the, there you go. And it kind of just then comes back out that way. So I don't know whether that might be because this is a sample piece that's hit a few different hands. We don't have the rest of these pens to kind of test them out, so I could only go based on what it was that we received as a piece to photograph and whatnot. So this could very well be a one-off sort of situation, but as far as I see, it's a little bit sticky on coming back in. I would show you how to remove the clip, which I think you actually can do, just kind of like using your fingernails and stuff like that, but I'm not going to do that because I don't have the proper equipment for it and I don't want to screw things up. So let's get to writing with this guy here. So the Curidas is available in extra fine, fine, and medium. This is a medium. It's got Platinum's ink cartridge in blue in there. I also did fill it up with, previously, I filled it up with some ink and tried out the converter, and it worked fine. So this pen, you know, as far as a writer is concerned, pretty good. And right out of the box, and also being that it could be a demo model, you know, I'm pretty happy with the result. So this is the, like I said, medium point stainless steel nib. Has got a good flow with pretty good touch of feedback, even though it's a medium point. But it does keep up well, and like a good retractable fountain pen should do, once it retracts, is that when you, let's say, retract it in, wait, hour, 2 hours, whatever, come back to it, click it open, works every time. So pretty nice overall design-wise, as far as how they were able to keep the nib wet and from drying out between uses. Kind of did like a side-by-side test with a control example of the Vanishing Point here, and I actually had left out a few Vanishing Point nibs without having them retracted, so like I just left them out with ink on them, and just to see if they would write up without being inside of the pen, and of course they dried out. So it's kind of like a control experiment. This this is a 18 karat medium nib. This is the Pilot Vanishing Point. $18K, and this is ink is I forget. I had it on my desk. I'll have to put it in the notes. But you see here, this is a medium point in the 18K, and this is a medium point platinum. And even though they are both Japanese-made nibs, Japanese companies, Japanese brands, Japanese retractable fountain pens, that they have a good degree of difference between the nib sizes on both of them. So whereas the Vanishing Point is going to be really nice and smooth and have a great flow and a pretty wide medium line, the Curidas has more of a, I feel like, of a finer, on a medium point that's more on the finer side, and plus gives you more of that sensation of feedback. So, Elizonda, I believe it is, perfect question, because I did want to get to talking about that. The grips, okay? So one of the gripes a lot of people have with the Vanishing Point is the fact that the clip kind of comes in and is part of the overall gripping area that's toward the front of this pen. And some people actually try, with some success, to remove the clips from the Vanishing Points. And Platinum, with the Curidas, decided to engineer this pen so that you can remove the clip. The clip, however, is set farther back on the Curidas and is really not much of a factor, at least when I'm gripping it, is not much of a factor as much as this part is. This part bugs me to no end. I didn't realize how much I like to put my middle finger underneath the pen until I started writing with this pen. And I'm fighting with this thing. I am fighting with it. I'm trying to like reposition my finger grip to more of a tripod grip so that I don't kind of like have this part like always touching. This is actually a callus. Well, it was used to be a callus back when I was a kid. I used to hold my pencils like really hard, and the wood case pencils would then rub up against this part, and I actually developed a pretty gnarly callus when I was like a younger kid, and it would puff up and everything. But yeah, this reminds me of like all of that torture of like constantly having something rub on that, you know, part of my finger. So, you know, can I get past it? I probably could if I wanted to, because then I could always just set my grip a little bit back to not have this interfere with it. But like considering that they went through the trouble of designing this pen so that you could take out the clip and then not have to, you know, be a little bit less obstructive in the gripping area, why? Why would you then put this guy on here? I don't know. It does bother me personally. I mean, it may not bother you. You might say it's like, oh, well, I'm gonna grip it like back over here, and I won't bother with it at all, you know? Or you might say like, oh, well, that's not how I really hold my pen. I hold my pen more, you know, as this kind of grip goes. So you could say like, oh, well, that's not gonna really get in the way of things. Or you could be like, well, I'm gripping my pen like this, and it's going to get in the way all the time. So, you know, it's really up to your own personal preference, but like me as a person who is critiquing this pen based on the design and the attempt, the desire of the company to produce a pen that can, let's say, navigate the flaws, as I guess you would say, like maybe flaws or the areas of the vanishing point which could be improved. I would have gone with trying to eliminate this part, any way possible, to eliminate this little bump over here and make it a bit more streamlined. That would have been much more ideal on this Platinum Curidas. That being said, the Platinum Curidas is going to be selling for only $80, including a platinum converter and ink cartridge. So that's a platinum proprietary converter or ink cartridge. Platinum converters, I like them. I like them a lot better than, let's say, the Pilot Con 40 converter, which is in this guy. So with the Pilot, this is a Pilot Vanishing Point. And they are currently MSRP, I believe is $195. And my handwriting is really bad today. I apologize. I'm just kind of doing this really quickly. And this would include the Con 40 converter plus Pilot ink cartridge. And those are proprietary to Pilot. So you're looking at a significant price difference between one guy here, which is the Platinum Curidas, translucent plastic resin type pen, see-through mechanics and internals here, and pretty neat to be able to, like, a couple design features, being able to take out the clip, being able to take apart the pen a little bit more thoroughly than the Vanishing Point, but then I kind of feel that has its own detractions. However, the Vanishing Point is a pen that's made of some more metal components, not necessarily very much any plastic at all on this guy, but does have an 18 karat gold nib on the Vanishing Point. Curidas has got the stainless steel nib. The writing experience with the Platinum is good. It's just probably on par with, let's say, one of their other stainless steel nib type pens. Let's say like a Platinum Cool, that kind of pen. It's a little bit on the more feedback, a little bit on the finer side, something you would expect with a Japanese type nib. The 18 karat gold Pilot Vanishing Point nibs, however, more flowing, like a more wet nib. It's definitely a lot smoother. So definitely an upgrade in the writing experience with the Vanishing Point. However, a lot of the things that people would gripe about with the Vanishing Point in terms of like the clip and the overall sizing of the section and everything, Platinum seems to want to have addressed. And I appreciate the fact that they did want to have something that was more progressive and a bit more wide-ranging in terms of its scope and a bit more accessible to the overall pen community for a retractable fountain pen. So kudos to that, and for anybody that, let's say, does already have a Vanishing Point, I hope that you took away from this a significant amount of information to kind of then further guide you and say whether, let's say Curidas would be a good fit for you, considering you already have had experience with a Vanishing Point or have a Vanishing Point in your collection already, if this is worthwhile to also add or to use in place of it. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. And like I said, these guys, the Platinum Curidas, will be available in mid-March, and we will have extra fine, medium nibs, 5 different colors. Be able to get them all at goldspot.com. Right now, you could sign up to get an email when they do arrive, because we don't take pre-orders. We're not going to take pre-orders on this. We don't want to hold your money while you could be spending it on all sorts of different pens and inks and things like that. We don't want to keep you hanging on there. We want you to be happy and to get it like that when we do get them in. So we'll be happy to get these in and be able to check them out for you in a more thorough review if you need to, and more thorough video. But this is our first look at the Platinum Curidas. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Stay inky, my friends.